Shift Happens podcast.
Welcome to the Shift Happens podcast, where we explore the latest trends and technologies transforming the future of work. In this episode, we'll discover how technology is reshaping our world with Tram Nguyen, General Director of Microsoft Vietnam. We'll delve into the unique cultural aspects influencing technology adoption, the challenges faced by leaders in implementing AI, and the thriving ecosystem of tech partners in Vietnam. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shift Happens podcast. Hey Tram, how are you?
Hi everyone. Yes, I'm very delighted to be here.
Well, we're so excited for our conversation today, but before we kick off our great discussion on how the shift is happening in Vietnam, we always start our podcast and ask our guests as to what song that resonates with you most as you think about disruption, change, and all this transformation that's going through. And why did you pick that song?
Yes, so I'm a big Beatles fan. So I usually really like to listen to the Beatles. Gives me a lot of energy in the morning. And the song that I pick is "Help." And if you listen to the lyrics, it's really connected to a lot of the things people are experiencing, facing an acceleration in tech. Like they don't know where to start. In the old days, they were feeling comfortable and confident, and these days are gone. So they need help from their friends. And so it's just also to think that you don't need to do tech on your own. We can help.
You know, what I think of when you talk about this song, because the chorus goes, I need somebody, help, not just anybody, I need someone, right? But if you think about tech in the past, especially IT, most of us have experienced IT. IT always think, we could do everything. It's IT. And whatever we give the business, they have to accept it. But now, even with IT, the cloud, AI, all these transformation, it's not enough. So IT needs to partner with all these different groups and different industries. It's funny in some of the parts of the song too. So when I was younger, I never needed anybody, right? But now those days are gone. I'm not so self-assured, so I really need help.
Yes, and I think this is also a lot of the story we with Microsoft, right? So we used to be like more kind of individual achievement focus, and since Satya came in, we really had a drastic change in the way we incorporate culture and the collaboration, the partnership together. So it's, and we also say to all our customers and partners that we cannot do it on our own. Despite how brilliant you are, you cannot really master tech and find the use cases and make it work for your organization on your own. You need help and you need support. And this is also, you need advice, right? So we leverage all the colleagues, all the peers in the low age, and we build on the success of others. So that effect is accelerated.
That's a wonderful analogy. I think that's a je ne sais quoi of Microsoft today, right? No other companies have the same trait where, no surprise, Satya's named the CEO of the year in a recent magazine because of that collaboration. Now it makes Microsoft so much bigger and one of the top, always top companies out there in the past few years. Speaking of this change and collaboration and growth, let's zero in to your part of the world, Vietnam, right? So Vietnam in the past few years have grown so much across different areas, be it infrastructure, tech, and a lot of great development. As a company, AvePoint, we've invested a lot in Vietnam. We have teams in Hanoi and Da Nang, and hopefully I get to see you in my next visit. What would you consider the driver of this accelerated and massive growth with Vietnam?
Yes, so it's an interesting question, and we do publish every year World Trend Index. So this is to also give an overview of how people are working and how people are integrating tech and Gen AI, especially this year, into their working environment and into their productivity, right? So we have been interviewing 31,000 people in 31 countries, and Vietnam is one of them. We have been also leveraging the labor and hiring trends on LinkedIn and the productivity patterns on Microsoft 365. So it gives us a quite comprehensive overview of how people work. And we also conduct interviews precisely with the leadership, with the managers, with the employees, right? So one part of the response to your question is, and we can see it in the survey, is Vietnam has always been very young, energetic, very tech savvy, right? So people are open to tech. They want to try. They have no legacy. So it's not like they had a system, then they need to build on this system. It's like they are very open. And as we notice for mobile, for apps, Vietnam is leapfrogging because they can really leapfrog on the innovation side. And in a very scrappy way, like adapt it to their own usage. And this we can see in the study for Vietnam, which is very kind of striking, is that Vietnamese users are 88% to say that they are already using AI at work. And the global average is 75%, right? So then we ask them, how do you do it? Like, is there a structure, like a platform, something at your disposal? And they say no. Actually, 70% of them bring their own AI tools to work. Personally train and get trainings, tutorials. They find it like in many places because they really want to try and to leverage the tech. They're very open to that.
You know, what's if I can jump in for a moment, Tram, what's interesting is that we also see, as Dux mentioned, with the work we've done to build great teams in our offices there, the talent pool is really flourishing. And it's probably in part because of the eagerness to learn and to adapt new technologies. One of the interesting points that we like to study, several points, is when we think about markets that are making this transition into a digital economy, we look at it through at least 4 lenses. We think about, where's the infrastructure, development, what stage is it at for that given market or country. We also think about how is the workforce skilled? Are they early adopters, as you mentioned? Are they, struggling to really identify new literacy around digital capabilities? The third is also the regulatory environment. How is the regulatory environment providing a foundation for new technologies to be adopted? And then, of course, you can talk about the regulatory environment without thinking about cybersecurity. So in the context of infrastructure development, skilled workforce, and regulatory environment, where do you see the opportunities for a market, the market in Vietnam, given that eagerness of the talent pool to adopt new technologies?
We have been asking the leaders about like their approach to Gen AI, how they inspire their teams, and so we almost have a 2-speed adoption scheme, right? You have the users that are very savvy. They manage on their own. They go and find the tools. They train themselves. They self-learn. And then you have a leadership and management and the framework that is slower to move. And the managers are probably more concerned about the pressing urge to get on tech, but at the same time, they don't know necessarily how to start, and they don't have like a platform in terms of framework by the authorities to help them do that, right? So you almost have like people who are really early users, very savvy, and then you have the management more contained and more cautious, and also really needing the help from somebody, right? So that's what we can see. And at the same time, for instance, if you ask the leaders in Vietnam, what is the hiring imperative for you going forward? So 78% of them say that they would rather hire a less experienced person with AI skills rather than a more senior person without any AI approach, right? And then they say at 76% that they would not hire someone without AI skill at all. So that's also very clear in their mindset. But there are only 45% of the CEOs to really inspire their teams and to show the way on how to integrate tech and AI in the daily work, right? So, which is really less than the global average. There's a disconnect in the way that personally people are using AI and approaching AI, and then the tone of the top, which is still very cautious and still looking for answers and still very slow in adopting and guiding and showing, at least building a platform for those experiments.
One thing we've seen is typically the economy seems to be driven by a few industries. We have manufacturing and exporting in Vietnam. We also have agriculture, tourism. Do you feel that there's one or maybe more than one industry that's more prime or ready to really take this adoption of generative AI? Or that maybe another way of asking it is, where is that shift going to happen first? Is there a specific industry that's kind of standing out to the work you do in Microsoft?
Yeah, so we have been partnering with great companies and startups to really push the usage of AI. And for instance, in the health sector, so we partner with VinBrain, and we have so VinBrain has created a platform which is called Dr. Ed, and this is an AI platform, right? Leveraging Microsoft Azure OpenAI service, and this platform aids physicians in the diagnosis process, in the treatment planning, and also in medical management, so that you don't spend much time on this process-oriented and time-consuming task, and you rather spend your time reassuring and really strengthening the relationship that you have with your patient. And so they have leveraged the AI component, and they have decreased, for instance, the initial screening time by 80%, right? They have also reduced the analysis of cases from 30 minutes to 5 minutes per case. So this is the time that you can really dedicate to your patient, explain to him the course of treatment, give him comfort, motivate him, rather than spending 30 minutes analyzing and then only 5 minutes and leaving the patient without any comfort or still a lot of questions, right? So we see that in the health sector. We also see a really interesting trend in the financial sector. And we have been partnering with Trusting Social. Trusting Social is a startup. They leverage the Azure OpenAI service to really read all the signals that are traditionally left on the side by the banking system. You want to start a business in Vietnam, most of the time you don't have pay slips. You don't have, history. You don't even have like a bank account. But all these people, they really have a project. They want to start a business. They want to buy the first motorbike or the first car to sell and to trade. So Trusting Social, because they can read all the signals and connect them, they would have patterns that are broader than the usual patterns of the banks, right? So, and then they can give inclusion and accessibility to those people. Because they would read things like, if Dax, you are riding your motorbike every day at the same time in the same neighborhood, it means that you have a place where you live and work. If you also work in the working hours, who are really busy, and then you have you go to the shop only, like in the evening. It shows also that you have an organized day. So all of this traditionally was not integrated in the banking system to get a loan, and then they could also give customers and banks. So customers were happy because actually you lend money to people who are serious, who have a project, and who have already a very disciplined way of living. For the banks, you also enlarge your segments, and you capture all these, long-term entrepreneurs. And in Vietnam, it's around 70 to 80% of the economy. A lot of micro businesses and individual people, like just trading. So I think that's also shows how AI can really shift the way we consider some of the economic criteria, and really broaden the set, and break the barriers.
So first of all, I popped up the site as you were talking. That's very clever. So they're using social and almost the social graph to build the trust that the financial services are adequate for you, and that's the way the banks can reach you. That's really interesting.
It's really good because historically, right? I mean, for my credit worthiness, they'll look at how much do I have debt, but that's pretty much it. They don't know my day-to-day. They don't know my history as an immigrant, and it's actually very good. It's more holistic, really, especially for those starting out, just like you said, Tram.
Yes, and so that's why they are called trusting social, because also in Vietnam, everyone is connected. So social networks really, this is a way, and actually you can read a lot of more consistent and logic data from the interactions that you have on social networks, and the way that you live your life and plan around it. So they work with the telcos, they work with the banks, and actually they have helped a lot of the kind of marginalized population to get loans and to start a serious business. And before that, they didn't have any choice. So those people would go and have a loan really right rate per day, right? So they can barely afford to pay for the loan. But now, and also the banks are happy to go scale on the SMB or micro businesses. That's also a new segment for them, and really dynamic, right? Where things happen very quickly.
Yeah. Maria, in case you don't know, Vietnam is one of the most social countries in the world, like all in, B2C, B2B, social is big. You think TikTok is big here in the United States? Wait till you go to Vietnam. My colleagues there schooled me on the Ting Ting dance. I know Tram knows what the Ting Ting dance is all about.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, and this is a trend that we have observed right during COVID, and because of the very ingenuity of people, right? So I used to buy bánh cuốn, that are the Vietnamese pancakes, from a lady in the market, and she had a small store, and she was selling, and then she found me on social network, and she said to me, "Oh, actually, my son made a new page for me because I cannot sell to the market anymore. So now I'm selling online, and I accept, wires, like QR code. Like she was properly selling her business online." And she said, "It's still me." So she took a picture and she showed to me that this is, her stall with the menu. So, which is just a reflection on how fast and how open people are. Plus, you have the combination of people living still with their parents and grandparents. So actually, all the young people who are really open to tech are helping their parents to really get there. And so after that, she was in only a few weeks, she was mastering, she would book the Grab, she would send me the QR code, I would pay, and it was really interesting because I used to go there and chat with her, but during kind of lockdown, so she was still selling and doing her trade with the help of tech.
It's interesting. So one thing so you mentioned earlier leapfrog, right? When you were talking about the concept of how it's leapfrogging, And I guess it goes back to the old saying, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. It feels like there's an opportunity to actually get there faster in this transformation to a digital economy, really, because there's this desire to fill a need. And when the tech is there and the willingness is there, you don't even have a generational, struggle. Because the use case you described, right? You have the young generation teaching the old generation, which in many other, more developed economies, you see actually a resistance. They don't want to change. They don't want to actually adopt a new technology. But it's remarkable how this leapfrog concept could really be advantageous to bringing the economy of a place like Vietnam to really be very competitive.
I was talking about people bringing their own AI tools to work. So we have broken it down to generation because we wanted to see if there was only the young people, but actually it's really well distributed. It's not only the Gen Z. The boomers are 73% to bring their own AI tools to work. So across is really distributed across Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and even the boomers are really open and really want to learn and leverage AI.
I think, Mario, this is very, very important, right? Like oftentimes when we think about technology adoption, we always look at it from a lens of education, maturity, technical background. But what Tram brought up, this idea of culture, really, societal culture, societal norms where families are together and they're feeding off of each other, right? Like the younger generation, millennial, Gen Z, being able to expose all of this. And I don't think it's even intentional because the fact that they're together at home, hey, check out this ChatGPT or check out this new, design tool I have. And then it would draw the more senior generations. As a result, they're learning. That's actually pretty cool.
It's very powerful. So I have a question on privacy. I mean, we talked a little bit about one of the areas where either you could advance the adoption of new technologies or prevent them is regulation. And so I'm curious as to, with this idea of a social graph, how is regulation staying on pace to make sure data privacy and protection is there so that this idea of trusting social, continues to grow?
Yeah. So on the, I think on the security, there are also two things that we are really trying to educate and to guide and advise our customers and the users with. The first one is there's a common confusion, especially in Vietnam, where the personal sphere and the professional sphere are not that separated, right? So it's very often that you can bring your kids to work. If you really like, to go to a party, and sometimes my customers bring their kids because they don't have the babysitter at that night. And this is actually a sign of respect and trust, and they like you. Otherwise, they would not, mix the personal lives. But if they like you and you have a good relationship based on trust, then they can bring their kids because they're proud of their kids. They want also to introduce to you, right? So the sphere of personal and professional is kind of blurred in Vietnam. So the first thing that we really need to explain to the users is that there's a difference between leveraging the AI tools that are public and the AI tools that we can set in the context of our organization and our company. Those are two separate things, right? So for the if you go on Bing, if you use ChatGPT, this is the public domain, and you will get the response that is based on the training and the information on the internet that are available. If we train the AI on your environment, and this is your organization, so we have like responsible AI framework, meaning that we ensure privacy and security. We never leverage the data of the organization to train the model. The data you have is within your framework, and the model doesn't remember or doesn't learn from it. So that's for one. We also have a big focus on reliability and safety. and in transparency. So that people can really operate in that type of clear framework on what we do and how we can help them. But in the end, the data of the organization remains their property. And the way they have implemented it, the profiling they have is also, we also help them to make it in the most inclusive, fair, transparent, and safe way as possible, right? Because while it's good that people bring their own AI tools to the workplace, it's not really good from an organization viewpoint, because you can have leakage, you can have security problem, you can have information that should not go into the personal tool. So this is really what we are trying to guide and advise our customers and partners with, because since in Vietnam it's a very vibrant, economy, and everybody is very energetic, they're really keen, but sometimes you need to really understand and set the right framework in a responsible way, and we are here to help them also, because it's not easy. It's something that is really critical for our company to be safe and to be secured, and leverage AI in a very clear set framework with the right profiling also.
One of the things around these framework, as you're describing it, I think about other technology leaders as well. So we go back to our song Help, where we need to work together. How are you working with some of the leading hyperscalers out there, or tech companies? Is there a consortium to help drive this momentum forward so Vietnam is really technology ahead?
So we are all connected, right? We are all, stakeholders of the same ecosystem. So we work a lot with, we have partnerships, and we work a lot with some customers that are also our partners, right? So for instance, like a company like Bosch, they are both a customer, but also a partner, in the way that they have developed also their own tech solutions, and really specific to manufacturing, for instance. And they have developed on our technology, but they are also going and providing this service to other companies, right? So everything is I think we also are very clear that we are partners company. So in Vietnam, for instance, we have 1,200 partners. The really good thing about that is that these 1,200 partners employ around 100,000 people. And 70% of them are SMBs. They have 50 or less employees. So it's really an ecosystem that we have built around the technology. So last year, they generated around 28 billion USD of revenue. And 35% of this revenue is directly attributable to Microsoft's service and products. The fact that they were selling and implementing and servicing our product accounts for 30%, 35% of the total revenue of these 1,200 partners. So it really shows you how the ecosystem is very dynamic, and also that actually, yes, we need help from, we help each other.
Mm-hmm. And this is the part where you talk about too, where you work closely with all these startups too, because right now you have 1,200, but then there's the part where there's a lot of growth, right? Like Trusting Social, all smaller business, and I'm assuming startup as well, where, as they say, right, tides rises all boats. So it's really amazing to see how the massive growth is happening over there.
Yes, and I think what is also very notable for Vietnam is that there's a strong developers community in Vietnam, right? So more than 400,000 developers, and if you count everyone working in the ICT sectors and related, it would be 1.5 million people, right? So it's a very vibrant ecosystem, and the developers are actually leveraging really well the tech. So, for instance, we have deployed the GitHub Copilot to help developers really to optimize their code, and so that they can also avoid, like common errors. They can have a smarter way of writing the code, and actually, personally, I see it as a great glass ceiling breaker, because a lot of women in Vietnam, like they feel like tech is very hard. Developers, it's a nice job, but it's really hard. I'm afraid I don't have time to to settle down, to have a family. But actually, AI will help you do that, because you then can really automatize the tasks that are tedious. You can also really accelerate the testing. You don't need to, like to go line by line, and you would have really a higher time of optimizing your code. And then you can dedicate this time to be more creative, to solve for other issues, rather than really just checking that the code is okay and works, or adding your code to someone else's code and not understanding what the meaning was.
I have a question on the, it's really interesting, the ecosystem of these partners that you just described. Do you see also that there's so we see in other markets, especially during the pandemic, and a shift where a lot of managed service providers began really powering the IT portfolio of many SMB organizations. And I'm just curious if that is also one of the observations that you're seeing from this ecosystem, or is it different? Is it that this vibrant 1,200 partner ecosystem is more there to do implementation of technology? I'm just curious as to what's the actual true core economy of that community.
Yes, so you have in the partners ecosystem, you have a few different categories. So you have the SI, right, the system integrators. Those usually are bigger scale companies, and they help with the implementation of the products and the design. And you also have what we call the industry solution partners, right? So those people are sometimes a company themselves, and they have developed something really interesting to manage their own business based on the tech, right? So you can be building construction business, and you have developed a specific way of managing the projects, or a specific CRM, and actually you just realize that it works for the industry, right? So we have this type of partners where they develop something really specific to their business, but at the same time they found a very interesting service and product that they could also offer to other people in the same industry, kind of like a white label, like concept. So you have a lot of different partners. You also have the consulting partners that help you really understand and drive digital transformation on a larger scale for your company and your organization, leveraging different parts, right? It's not only about tech, but it's also about the people, the tool and processes, the way you integrate your own financial system, the way you integrate your supply chain and logistics. So we have really different types of partners, and they all work on the 6 solution areas that we have, and in the market, and it's the way we also keep the relation really dynamic, right? Because you found something, your customer, we will help you put it on the marketplace so that you can also offer that to other people that may be interested.
Yes. And that marketplace has been great. We actually do quite a bit of work through the marketplace as well. So it certainly makes sense how you're definitely driving this economy. You mentioned GitHub Copilot. Are you also seeing that the workplace of many of the sort of organizations are interested in advancing with Copilot for M365? I'm just curious as to how the productivity of the modern work is sort of behaving.
Yes, so I think there's a common thread to all of us, is that we struggle with the digital debt. Like, no one has enough time and energy to handle the volume of work and the pace of work. And in our interviews, for the World Trend Index, 68% of the people interviewed say that they struggle with this digital, workload, and they feel quite stressed by that. And at the same time, they are really leveraging AI to kind of delegate the task, and they not only delegate very like analytical or kind of automated task, but they also delegate more creative, like give me an idea, how can I start this presentation? Can you run through these emails and tell me what is the mindset of my customer and how can I address them in a way that is making them comfortable? So you have more creative tasks that are also delegated to AI, which is interesting. So it shows that people are actually really integrating AI in their daily work. So in Vietnam, it's a striking 93% of the interviewees actually start their day with AI, right? And then they are 94% to go to bed with AI. So when you start your day, you organize your plans for today, your work, and then when you go to bed, then you have maybe a recap of what has been decided today, what are the pending tasks, or what are the actions I need to make. So it also shows that in Vietnam, I think more and more people are integrating AI to help them do their work and to cope with the digital debt that they have. And especially, there's also like a concern by the leadership is that they see there's a lack of innovation because people are already trying to cope with the daily job. So they are very afraid of the lack of innovation, right? So, for instance, like 60% of leaders say they really they lack of innovation, and it's a concern for them. So the question now is how, because AI will help you free up some time, but how are you going to use that time? And I think that's the question. It's almost philosophical. It's not like it's really when you have the time in your hands, how can you put this time to make a bigger impact for your family, for your work, for your team, for your organization, but also for the community? Because in the end, this is the time that you have and the space that you have. Otherwise, and I think that it's also really changing a lot the way the leaders need to structure and lead the team, right?
Tram, this has been an awesome conversation. We can keep going, and we really appreciate your insights, and hopefully this could be a good platform also for a lot of our listeners to learn more about the amazing growth that's happening in Vietnam. But before we wrap up, would love for you to share 1 or 2 tips to our listeners on how they can maximize the potential of AI in their organization, in their personal life, to really progress, but also at the same time, take back the time to do something with greater impact.
Yeah, so first, I think that people should not be afraid of AI, right? So you are not on your own. We have a lot of courses for free. On LinkedIn, for instance, you have more than 500 courses for free that you can really pick. And it's like riding a bike. You can read a lot of books about how to ride a bike, but unless you really go on the bike, ride, and fall, you will not be able to ride it, right? So what I really encourage also, our customer and our users to do is that go and ride, fall fast, so that you can really get up and then you can move on and move ahead. So I think that first there's a lot of resources that are available. We have all the surveys we have are available for free, of course. The LinkedIn courses and trainings are also accessible for free, and then experiment, right? Have fun with that. So this is something that Vietnam, unfortunately, is a bit lagging behind. Even the poor users don't feel at ease at exchanging with their colleagues, sharing, the tip. They keep it to themselves. And then the leadership is also not about experimentation, but with any tool, unless you use it 10,000 times, you will not know how to use it. So just experiment, take a small case, right? So for instance, you can start with a very small case. Like I have a lot of internal documentation. I don't know which version is the accurate one. I don't know if I have some technical errors. In some of the versions, I would like to get a summary. I would like to get the latest, terms and conditions of my contract. All of this, you can have AI do it for you, and it will improve the experience you have with AI, but also the employees' experience. Because when they can find everything on just, asking questions in a very natural manner, they will be happier, and then they will service probably happier customers because everything is linked. So I think that for the users, just see AI as a great tool also to get access to new opportunities in your career. And just like the lady who is selling Bang Kun, she now has like a digital business. It's kind of like a mini omni-channel kind of organization, right? So she serves in her outlet, but she also takes order, from the app. So everyone can leverage AI actually to improve their lives and to have more opportunities. And for the leaders, I think that most of the time they are afraid of what seems to be gigantic, but it is not gigantic. You need to start small and then try, experiment, and then move on and just scale up, right? So for $1 you invest in AI, you will get $3.5. So the return on investment is quite good. And most of the companies will be, so the average ROI will be after 14 months. So this, and in Vietnam, I think it's much shorter because the vibrancy of the economy, of the sense of people adapting and just using tech in a quite instinctive and smart way to their own needs and to their own ambitions.
Tram, cảm ơn. Thank you so much. Mario and I really appreciate this conversation, and we look forward to visit with you in Vietnam, or if you're in this part of the world, we would love to have you be in New York City or Washington, D.C. So thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you, Tram.
Thank you, Dax and Mario. Has been a pleasure.
Shift Happens Podcast.
Thanks for listening. As Vietnam continues to ride the bike of AI innovation, learning and advancing rapidly, it offers valuable lessons for the rest of the world. The country's journey demonstrates that with openness and a willingness to experiment, any nation can leapfrog into the forefront of global technology evolution. If you liked today's episode, subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. Until the next time.